My name was Idris. I was a devoted Muslim, raised within the rigid walls of an Islamic school in Damascus. I sang verses steeped in discipline and adherence, my voice echoing a faith praised and feared. The honor of my religion lit my path, but within that light, a darkness loomed, an emptiness that gnawed at my soul. I was a performer of faith, yet inside, I felt like a ghost haunted by unmet longings. Then, everything changed in a heartbeat, and I died. Not in the physical sense at first, I simply fell. An accident before a performance that shattered my world into silence. And in that silence, I drifted into a place devoid of light, only to hear the name I never expected, Jesus. His voice pierced through the void, revealing a truth I had been blind to amidst the rules and rituals that chained my spirit. He called me out of darkness, showing me the chains of the very faith I had revered. What I learned during that moment of death unraveled everything I thought I knew. I stood witness to the spiritual war for my soul, a battle masked in tradition and deception. I realized then that my devotion had not been to God but to an oppressive system that silenced my true self. All the dreams that hinted at a different path came crashing down, replaced by the glaring truth that freedom existed beyond the boundaries I had accepted. This awakening was not merely for me. It is the cry of many who are entangled in similar struggles, those yearning for something more than ritualistic piety. A voice whispers to them too, urging them to break free. And now, I stand at the precipice of sharing this power, ready to bear the weight of my new faith, knowing the risks that come with it. So as I navigate this path of revelation, I invite you to join me. I'll reveal the steps I took to reclaim my voice, the beauty of grace that transformed my emptiness into purpose, and the call to share that very truth with the world. How many were out there, suffocating under the weight of false narratives? How many faced the same struggles I did, yet felt too afraid to question? I felt an insatiable urge to share the truth I had received, to confront the deceptive forces at play, to invite others into this light of understanding. With each revelation, I felt spiritually invigorated, ready to break free from the chains that had held me for so long. As the light slowly began to fade, I was thrust back into my body, consciousness returning to the chaos of the world. I awoke on the stage, the crowd around me dimly aware of what had happened. Confusion and clarity collided in my mind as I struggled to process the overwhelming experience. It lit a fire within me, a commitment to share my revelation with those around me, to lead others out of the darkness that had enveloped my life for too long. But even as determination surged, fear crept in. What would this mean for my family, my community? Would they accept my awakening, or reject me for daring to challenge the beliefs that had shaped our lives? I stood at the precipice of a new reality, filled with the weight of my choices and the urgent call to action that now echoed within my soul. When I finally opened my eyes after that fateful encounter with Jesus, the world felt changed, yet I was still in the same place. I was Idris, a singer from Damascus, with dreams of sharing my art and soul with the world. But as I returned to consciousness, I quickly realized that everything I had known had shifted. The warmth and clarity I felt in his presence contrasted starkly with the coldness of the reality I'd returned to. I was faced with an unsettling truth. I had embraced a new faith that could lead to my complete rejection by the people who meant the most to me. The moment I shared my experience and newfound beliefs, I was branded a traitor. My community regarded me with suspicion, and my family's faces reflected a mixture of sorrow, betrayal, and anger. As the days rolled into weeks, I grappled with isolation, the weight of guilt pressing on my chest like a heavy stone. Each morning felt like a battle, the tension between who I had been and who I was becoming, driving a wedge deeper into my soul. The once comforting prayer rituals now felt like chains. I found myself wrestling with fear of what my family would say, fear of their disappointment, and fear of what might happen next. The love and support I had once taken for granted began to feel like distant memories. In a community grounded in tradition and unwavering faith, There was no room for questioning, and I found myself standing alone at the edge of a chasm, uncertain if I could take the next step forward. Every evening, I sought solace in music, pouring my heart into the melodies that once ignited my passion, yet this time, every note was tinged with sadness. I recalled the moments before my accident, the dreams I had of success, recognition, and the applause of a grateful audience. Now that applause felt like a hollow echo, and I was left with the echoes of Jesus, words ringing in my mind. "You are in the midst of a spiritual war," he had said, and I began to understand the depth of that truth. My journey was not solely about my personal awakening. It was a call to resist the hidden agenda of the elite, who thrived on manipulation and division among us. I could see the societal fractures widening before my eyes. The wars fought in the name of ideology, the leaders who incited hatred instead of love, and the technology that connected us all while simultaneously stoking fear. The more I dug into these revelations, the more I felt the urgent need to speak out, to awaken others to the truth I had found. Yet, how could I convey this message when I was still grappling with my own fears? The isolation felt suffocating and the questions loomed large in my heart. Was I ready to stand up against the forces that sought to keep us bound? Did I have the strength to confront my family and community and share the truths that had been revealed to me? Through this turmoil, I turned to prayer once again, seeking guidance and strength in my darkest moments. "Jesus, grant me courage," I whispered into the stillness of the night. I began to feel a flicker of hope amidst the despair. This hope was a gentle reminder that my story could reach others trapped in the same spiritual conflict I had endured. Perhaps my voice could be a beacon for those questioning their own beliefs, a catalyst for awakening in the face of deception. I envisioned sharing my experience with people like me, those who longed for connection, truth, and purpose beyond the confines of tradition. As I prepared to take that leap into the unknown, the weight of my conviction grew heavier. I was on the verge of something profound, a commitment that could redefine my life and the lives of those around me. Would my family ever understand? Could I navigate the storm ahead while remaining true to who I was becoming? The urgency pulsed within me, drowning out the fears that haunted my spirit. I felt a divine calling to rise, to join the spiritual war against the deception that shackled us all. It was time to embrace my awakening fully, and to share the truth with a world desperately in need of its light. As I embarked on my clandestine quest for truth, the world around me felt like a prison built on strict traditions and unyielding expectations. I am Idris, a singer and a young man caught in the throes of a spiritual war that many around me couldn't see. I began secretly consuming Christian content, desperately searching for answers beyond the rigid dogmas I had known. My nights were filled with quiet exploration, skimming through testimonies and videos of others who had experienced similar awakenings. Each story resonated deeply, igniting a flicker of hope amid the discontent that had plagued my soul for so long. Yet, as I delved further into this new path, I found peace in the revelations I was uncovering. But with that peace came an overwhelming fear. The realization that I might permanently lose my family and cultural ties loomed over me like a dark cloud. I could envision their faces, expressions filled with confusion and disappointment, if they were to find out about my exploration of faith beyond Islam. That fear was often paralyzing, but I also felt an urgency to embrace the truth that was unfolding before me. Jesus had become a lifeline, a source of comfort that was teaching me about love, grace, and redemption, elements I had always yearned for but felt denied in my previous existence. The more I learned, the more I understood the hidden agenda that the elite manipulated to maintain control over our lives. I saw the way the narrative spun by those in power sowed division and fear, creating a world where questioning was discouraged and conformity was rewarded. This was what I had been blind to all along, and the awakening to such truths was both exhilarating and terrifying. I felt the urgency to share this information, to speak out against the deceptions that held my community in chains. But then came the nagging worry. Would my voice matter? Or would I just be silenced by whispers of betrayal? I recall one evening, as I connected with others who shared similar experiences, we discussed the urgency of our spiritual missions. The conversations flowed into the depths of societal issues, wars fought in the name of ideologies, political manipulation, and technological advances that further entrenched the elite in power. Each revelation felt like another layer peeled back, exposing the stark reality of our world's suffering. I listened intently, knowing that these truths were not just arguments. They were lifelines for those yearning for a more profound understanding of their existence. All around me, I felt the tension of awakening mixed with fear, but it was a fear that ignited a collective passion, a desire to fight back against the darkness. That night, I stood alone in my room, praying for guidance. "Jesus," I whispered, "please give me the strength to confront my fears and share my truth." In that silence, I felt a warmth enveloping me, a sense of assurance that I was not alone in this journey. The struggles I faced were immense, but the comfort of my faith grew stronger. I realized my mission was beyond my personal journey. It was about inspiring others to see the light amidst the shadows of deception. I began drafting songs that would speak to this awakening, hoping to use my voice not just for entertainment but as a beacon of hope for those searching for truth. As my performances approached, I could feel the urgency of my calling intensifying. I envisioned standing on stage, not just as a singer but as a messenger of the revelations I had received. Each song would carry the weight of my journey, the pain of separation from my family and the hope for change. The tension in my heart reflected the struggle I faced, a readied messenger standing on the brink of transformation, prepared to confront whatever consequences awaited me. I wondered if my family would ever understand or accept this journey I had undertaken, but the urgency to spread this truth began to overshadow my fears. With each note resonating in my soul, I felt closer to my destiny, ready to embrace the awakening that Jesus had intended for not just myself but all souls still consumed by the darkness. As I reflect on my journey, it's hard to believe how far I've come and how much I've changed. My name is Idris, and I've spent much of my life torn between my dreams and the weight of tradition. Growing up as a singer in a conservative Muslim community in Damascus, I learned early on that my voice was more than just a means of expression. It was a reflection of my identity. Yet, the deeper I dove into my music, the more I felt an internal conflict brewing, a spiritual war raging within me that I couldn't quite articulate. I struggled to reconcile my passion with the rigid expectations imposed on me. This internal turmoil reached a climax the night I fell just before stepping on stage for what was supposed to be a breakthrough performance. The accident plunged me into darkness, and in that void, I encountered Jesus. His voice broke through the silence, powerful yet comforting, urging me to wake up from the deception that had ensnared my soul. "Idris, you've been held captive by a hidden agenda," he said, illuminating the reality around me. I saw how the elite manipulated societal norms and beliefs to keep us feeling small and afraid, how fear was wielded to prevent us from seeking the truth. It was during this near-death experience that I grasped the gravity of my situation. I felt caught in a snare, not just of my own making, but one woven by a larger system designed to suppress our spiritual awakening. The patterns of deception I had accepted as normal began to unravel, revealing a deeper truth about myself and the world. The experiences of suffering, division, and conflict echoed through my mind, highlighting the urgency of what I had to confront. I realized I could no longer live in the shadows of doubt and fear. I had a purpose that transcended my personal struggles. When I returned to my body, I was filled with a sense of clarity, but also trepidation. How could I share this revelation with others? The thought of confronting my community and family with the truths I had uncovered felt daunting. I would risk losing everything, but the desire to testify, to share the freedom I found in Jesus, grew stronger with each passing day. I understood that my experience served not just me, but had the potential to awaken others ensnared in the same spiritual war. I was being called to use my voice not just for music, but as a vessel for truth, a beacon of light in a world steeped in darkness. With each note I practiced, I felt a swell of purpose. I began composing new songs, lyrics that would carry my journey from spiritual bondage to awakening, inviting others on a similar path. This was no longer just about performing. It was about breaking the silence that swallowed so many of us whole. As I prepared for my next performance, I could feel the weight of my mission pressing against me. What would happen when I shared my story? How would my family react? The fears loomed large, but I also felt the unmistakable presence of Jesus beside me, reminding me that this was the way forward. As I stepped onto the stage that night, my heart raced. I was no longer just Idris the singer. I was Idris the messenger, ready to confront the deception that had kept so many in chains. The audience before me felt electrified, a palpable energy buzzing in the air. I took a deep breath, feeling the fire of conviction blaze within me. In that moment, I was empowered to speak my truth, the truth that had been revealed to me amidst the darkness. And as I opened my mouth to sing, I knew that this was just the beginning of a new journey, one that would confront the spiritual war we all face and strive to awaken those still lost in the shadows of fear. In the aftermath of my encounter with Jesus, everything changed. I stood at a crossroads, knowing I could no longer live in the shadows of my past. As a musician, I was passionate about my craft, but the restrictions of my life in Damascus felt suffocating. The fear of rejection from my family gnawed at me, yet the urging voice of Jesus echoed in my heart, urging me toward a path of freedom. It was in this climactic moment that I made the decision to leave. I would change my name and cross the border, seeking a new life where I could openly live my faith without fear of reprisal. Leaving my home was not an easy choice. I felt the weight of my cultural heritage and the love of my family straining against the pull of my newfound purpose. As I traveled, each mile felt both liberating and heavy. I was stepping into an unknown future driven by hope and the desire to plant seeds of transformation in others, just as I had witnessed in my own journey. I envisioned a community where conversations about faith could flow freely, where the truth could break through the layers of deception that had ensnared so many. I was determined to be a voice for the unheard, an advocate for those seeking holiness amidst despair. Upon reaching my destination, I found a welcoming community of believers. They embraced me with open hearts, emerging from their own struggles in search of solace and truth. Together we shared stories, and I started to feel the profound impact of my testimony. I began to evangelize, using my music not just for entertainment, but as a vehicle for hope. Each note became a message, a piece of my journey expressed through melody and lyrics that spoke to the human experience, shared pain, the longing for truth, and the joy of awakening. I witnessed the transformation in others as they resonated with my story, feeling a connection that transcended our individual journeys. As I stood before my new community, leading worship and sharing my experiences, I could see the light returning to faces that had long been dimmed by doubt and despair. I realized that my willingness to embrace this change had created a ripple effect, inspiring others to question their own realities. Yet, amid this beautiful awakening, I still bore the ache of separation from my family. Thoughts of them often crept in, and I couldn't escape the longing for reconciliation. Would they ever understand the truth that had set me free? Would they ever accept the new me, the Idris, who had dared to step beyond the confines of tradition and seek a relationship with Jesus? As time passed, I nurtured hope that one day my family would come to see the light I had found. My resolve to share the truth remained unshaken, and I became a beacon of hope both in my community and within myself. I understood that the spiritual war wasn't just mine, it was a battle we all faced. I began to actively seek ways to bridge the gaps, to reach out to my family and convey the love and revelations Jesus had shared with me. I imagined the conversations we might have, the questions, the tears, and perhaps the eventual understanding. Through my work, I was not just transforming my life, but also contributing to a greater narrative that challenged deception, unearthing deeper truths for a fractured world. The road ahead remained uncertain, filled with challenges and unanswered questions. Yet I felt invigorated by the urgency of my mission and the clarity that propelled me forward. Sharing my story was about more than my personal awakening. It was a call to action in a world characterized by division and fear. With each passing day, I committed to being present in my new reality while maintaining the hope that one day my family would join me in this awakening. In the struggles ahead, I felt the promise of transformation not just for myself, but for anyone still searching for the light of truth in an often dark and chaotic world. I was ready to face whatever lay ahead, propelled by love, faith, and the unyielding desire for reconciliation. As I sit here reflecting on my journey from the shadows of tradition to the light of truth, I find myself grappling with profound questions. After all that I've witnessed and experienced, I want to ask you, have you ever felt a deeper calling? A whisper in your soul urging you to seek something beyond the confines of the life you've always known? We are all entangled in a larger spiritual war, each of us navigating through layers of deception designed to keep us in fear and silence. What will it take for you to break free? Every voice matters in this awakening, and perhaps your story could ignite the spark in someone else's heart. I invite you to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Have you found your path? Is there a truth that has set you free? You are not alone on this journey. We are in this together, searching for meaning amidst the chaos. If this message resonates with you, don't forget to subscribe to Truth from Beyond. Hit that notification bell, because what lies ahead is a deeper exploration of the hidden battles we all face and the stories that have the power to inspire change. Join us as we continue to uncover the transformative truths that can awaken us all. In our next video, we will dive into another testimony, this time from someone who faced rejection, yet came out victorious on the other side. Trust me, you won't want to miss this powerful story. Thank you for staying with me until the end. I'm Idris, and I want to remind you, the truth is a journey, not a destination. Let's walk it together. But before we begin, leave a comment below. Where are you watching from, and what time is it there? Your journey matters in this unfolding story. And if you love Jesus as I do, I urge you to subscribe to Truth from Beyond. More revelations await, and together, we'll uncover the profound transformation that lies ahead. In the rigid confines of the Islamic school I attended in Damascus, Syria, the atmosphere was charged with discipline and fear. I was raised under strict guidelines, where every emotion was overshadowed by the demand for religious honor. As a young musician, I often felt stifled, my dreams of a life filled with music and expression buried beneath layers of expectation. In that environment, I learned to prioritize the teachings of my faith over my own desires, wrestling with the burden of adhering to values that felt increasingly oppressive. This constant tension between obedience and personal longing created an inner turmoil that I struggled to navigate daily. The day my life changed forever began like many others, filled with rehearsals and preparations for a performance that would showcase my vocal talents. Yet, as I stood backstage, nerves coursing through me, I was suddenly engulfed in an overwhelming stillness. It was in that moment, amidst the high expectations and clamor of the crowd, that I felt a presence surrounding me. I closed my eyes, hoping to find my center, and it was then that I heard his voice. "Jesus, you are meant for more than this," he said, each word resonating deep within my soul. The experience transcended the physical world. I felt as if I was stepping into another realm entirely. As the vision unfolded, I found myself transported to another place, where darkness surrounded me, but a brilliant light pierced through the veil. It was as if the light carried within it the essence of truth itself, illuminating not only the world around me but also revealing the hidden agenda of the elite. I saw how society's structures were carefully constructed to keep people in fear, to manipulate our beliefs so we would remain compliant. Wars fueled by greed and power played out like a tragic theater, and I understood, in a profound way, the spiritual war that lay before us. The silence of my years of devotion was broken by the cries of those imprisoned by deception, and I felt the urgency of a mission calling me forth. In the wake of that encounter, I began wrestling with the profound implications of my experience. The music I had always cherished now took on a deeper meaning. It became a vessel through which I could share the truth I had received. Every note I sang felt charged with purpose. I needed to awaken others, to break the silence that surrounded us, just as I had done. The sacred artistry of my craft was no longer about personal glory. It was about shining a light on the spiritual awakening that was so desperately needed in my community. But I also felt the weight of fear pressing down on me. How would those around me respond to this radical change in my beliefs? As the days passed, I felt the tension of living between two worlds, the expectations of my upbringing and the newly found freedom in my faith in Jesus. Would my family understand when I spoke the truth that had been revealed to me? They had always taught me to adhere strictly to our traditions, and now I was confronting those very foundations. Rehearsals turned into moments of prayer, where I found myself seeking guidance from Jesus, asking for strength as I prepared to step boldly into my new identity. Each prayer brought a sense of peace, a reassurance that I wasn't walking alone in this spiritual war. Finally, as I stepped onto that stage, microphone in hand, I realized this was not just a performance. It was my declaration. With every word I sang and every note I played, I felt the echoes of truth resounding around me. I sang not just for myself, but for every individual who felt trapped in the confines of tradition and fear. The light that had filled my spirit during my encounter with Jesus poured through me, igniting a passion that could no longer be contained. The time for silence had passed, and I was ready to embrace the awakening that awaited, not just for me, but for everyone yearning to break free from the deception that shrouded our world. As I stood there, I felt the pulse of a burgeoning revolution within me, eager to share this newfound light with all who would listen. As I stand backstage, preparing for my performance, I can't shake the weight of the world that feels like it's pressing down on my shoulders. My name is Idris, and at 28, I'm known in my community for my talent as a singer. I've spent years honing my craft, pouring my heart into every note I sing. Yet, beneath the surface, a storm brews within me, an emotional void that I work hard to conceal with obedient smiles and serious expressions. The expectations of my family, teachers, and peers have become a tangled web of obligation that binds me tighter every day. As a devout Muslim, I've always prioritized my faith, but increasingly, I feel a disconnect growing between that faith and the longing for something deeper. In the shadows of my soul, dissatisfaction swells like a rising tide. Night after night, as I sing songs that reflect our traditions, I can't help but wonder if there's more to life than the routines I've accepted. The strict adherence to religious doctrine, while providing a sense of security, also leaves me feeling suffocated. The truths I recite often feel hollow. I've prayed fervently, hoping for clarity, but what I found in the silence was confusion. My heart yearns for the kind of connection that goes beyond ritual, a spiritual awakening that I've only glimpsed in fleeting moments of inspiration. Everything changed one fateful evening as I prepared to perform in front of a large audience. With the stage lights dimmed and the atmosphere electric, a sudden calm washed over me. In that quiet moment, I closed my eyes and felt a shift in the air around me. It was as if the weight of expectation fell away, and I was enveloped in a profound stillness. Then I heard a voice so gentle yet powerful that it shattered the facade I had built around my heart. Idris. It called softly, and instantly I recognized that it was Jesus. His presence filled the space with warmth and love, illuminating the darkness that had lingered in my soul. "Your heart is heavy with the burden of deception," he said. "You've been caught in a spiritual war, blinded by the elite who wield control over the narratives of your life." Each word pierced through me with an intensity that I had never known. Images flashed before my eyes, showing the realities of the world, the wars, the suffering, and the manipulation at the hands of those in power. I was forced to confront the hidden agenda that shaped not just my life, but the lives of countless others around me. The truth I had longed for began to unravel, revealing a deeper understanding of my existence. I was not just a singer, I had a purpose beyond the stage. As the vision intensified, I felt the urgency of his message resonate within me. It was as if I had been awakened from a long slumber, and the beauty of the revelation ignited a passion I never knew existed. Seen through the lens of love and revelation, my struggle became clear. Jesus illuminated the conflict between my religious devotion and my desire for authentic connection. I realized that embracing this truth meant more than just personal fulfillment. It was an invitation to help others awaken from their own slumber, to break free from the chains of deception that bound them. My voice could be a powerful tool for change, yet the risks loomed large. As I prepared to step onto the stage, I felt an inner conflict arise. The fear of rejection, of being branded an outcast in my community, weighed heavily on my heart. How would my family react when I finally shared this truth that had transformed me? Would they see me as a heretic, an enemy of everything they had raised me to believe? Even so, in that moment of resolve, I understood that I could no longer remain silent. The revelation that had been given to me was far too profound to keep hidden. I could feel the calling growing stronger, urging me to speak out, to embark on this journey of awakening, not only for myself, but for everyone else yearning for truth in a world shrouded in darkness. The time for hesitation was over. I was ready to embrace the path laid before me. In the quiet moments of prayer, I often felt a gnawing emptiness creeping into my spirit. My name is Idris, and as a singer aspiring to make my mark in the world, I was raised in a strict Islamic environment where devotion was mandated and questions were silenced. Each prayer, once a source of strength, began to feel hollow, as if the words had lost their power. I would kneel, reciting verses, but deep inside, a storm was brewing. The teachings I had followed diligently started to raise doubts, and I wrestled with feelings of purposelessness and confusion that haunted my thoughts. As I lay in bed at night, I found myself bombarded with vivid dreams, nightmares that shifted into visions of an alternate path I couldn't fathom. In these dreams, I saw shadows and light battling around me, and overwhelming feelings of longing surged through my veins. There were moments when I sensed a bright figure, but each time I awoke before grasping its significance. Each morning there was a heaviness in my chest, a silent scream for help that I couldn't voice for fear of repercussions. How could I express my doubts in an environment that demanded unwavering faith? The oppressive atmosphere wrapped around me like chains, stifling my need for understanding. One fateful evening before a major performance, I sought solace in prayer, desperate for clarity. I closed my eyes and called out to Jesus, whom I had learned about in whispers from others facing spiritual dilemmas. His name had always seemed taboo, yet in that vulnerable moment I felt a sense of urgency to seek the truth beyond the boundaries I'd lived in. Suddenly, the silence shattered, and I heard a voice so clear, so profound, that it resonated through my entire being. "Idris," it said, "you're caught in a spiritual war, hidden behind deception." The weight of those words struck me like lightning, sending shockwaves through my consciousness as I felt the stimulating power of divine revelation. In that surreal encounter, Jesus illuminated the truth of my struggles. He revealed the hidden agenda of the elite, the manipulation at play within our societies that kept us in fear and divided. I saw visions of individuals trapped by the chains of their own beliefs, unable to break free from the societal norms that dictated their lives. My heart raced as I took in this knowledge, understanding the broader implications of my own journey. This was not merely about my personal awakening. It was about a collective struggle for truth in a world ensnared by deception. I witnessed the power of conformity, how it stripped people of their happiness, and the urgency to awaken those slumbering souls became a fire within me. As I returned to the waking world, my heart was pounding with a mix of fear and purpose. I felt reborn, yet weighed down by the knowledge that I had been given. How could I confront my family, my community, with truths that could sever the ties of connection? The conflict was palpable, but I was determined that the truth I had experienced could not remain buried. I sought comfort in the thought that my voice could inspire others, just as I had been inspired to seek out the light of understanding. I envisioned standing before the crowd, not just to perform, but to share the revelations I had received, confronting the truth of the spiritual war we all were a part of. Yet, the path ahead was shrouded in uncertainty. Each step felt like a tightrope walk over a chasm of fear and isolation. The stakes were high, and I was painfully aware that the consequences of my awakening could include rejection, condemnation, or even worse. Despite this, an unshakable faith took root within me. I was committed to moving forward, to be a voice for those who were silenced, to bring the light of revelation to those still lost in the shadows of deception. As the moment approached for me to step onto the stage, the weight of my decision became palpable. The call to action reverberated in my heart, urging me to embrace this awakening, ready to confront whatever challenges lay ahead, driven by the ultimate truth I had finally learned to embrace. The night of my pivotal performance began like any other, filled with excitement and anticipation. I was Idris, a singer known for my talent within my conservative community in Damascus. The music pulsed through my veins, yet beneath the surface, I felt a growing tension gnawing at my spirit. I had been wrestling with doubts about my faith and the rigid expectations pressing down on me. But that evening, as I prepared to step onto the stage, an accident occurred that would change everything. I slipped, falling from the edge of the stage, and in an instant, the world blurred into darkness. What followed was an experience that I would later come to understand as a near-death experience. In that dark void, I felt detached from my body, weightless, and for the first time in years, free from the noise that surrounded me. As I floated in that inky silence, I suddenly sensed a presence. The darkness began to brighten, and then there he was, Jesus, radiating an otherworldly light that illuminated the entirety of my existence. The warmth of his presence enveloped me, filling the void I had struggled with for so long. In that moment, everything I had wrestled with, the expectations, the duties, the fears, began to dissolve away. Idris. He called my name softly, and the intensity of that utterance resonated deep within my soul. You are caught in a spiritual war, ensnared by the hidden agenda of those who wish to control you. His words pierced through the fog of confusion that had clouded my heart. I saw visions of deception that had held not only me but countless others captive, manipulations by the elite that kept people bound to traditions that stifled growth and authenticity. The weight of societal expectations and cultural norms pressed down on me like a heavy shroud, blinding me from the truth. The revelation was startling, waking me from a slumber I hadn't fully realized I was in. As Jesus continued to speak, he revealed the distractions of my religious and cultural environment, showing me how they often obscured the genuine connection I sought with God. I understood then that my incessant need for approval had led me to a spiritual prison. The rituals that had once felt sacred grew distant and hollow, mere remnants of faith void of the vibrancy I now craved. I saw the ongoing conflicts in the world, wars fueled by manipulation, leaders inciting division instead of unity. All of it laid bare before me. Amidst the beauty of his light, I grasped the urgency of awakening, both for myself and for others trapped in their own darkness. This divine encounter transported me to a deeper understanding of my purpose. I realized this newfound awareness was not just for my own liberation, but for the awakening of my community and others who were similarly bound by deception.